evening, ladies and gentlemen. This evening, I have the singular honor to introduce to you our speaker for this evening. And he's in the person of Mr. Isaac Patrick Ni Amati Quaye, a fellow of this institute. Isaac is a managing consultant of the Dasika Consultants Limited and has over 33 years of professional experience in tax compliance, tax advisory, transaction tax services, tax audit review, tax health check, and tax administration, working for major local and international clients. He has worked with two of the Big Four and also the Ghana Revenue Authority, formerly the Internal Revenue Service. He is a barrister and solicitor of the Supreme Court of Ghana with interest in tax law, corporate law, commercial law, employment and labor law, land law, and alternative dispute resolution. Isaac is a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Taxation, Ghana, and has previously served on the governing council of the Chartered Institute of Taxation. He currently serves on the Legal Advisory Committee, Disciplinary Committee, and the Draft Regulations Committee. He was also a member of the Local Organizing Committee for the 11th Annual International Tax Conference of the West African Union of Tax Institutes, WAUTI. Isaac is also a fellow of the Institute of Directors Ghana, as I mentioned earlier, with a strong passion for good corporate governance. He is also a member of the Ghana Bar Association. He holds an LLM in Alternative Dispute Resolution, a qualifying certificate in law, Bachelor of Laws degree, an executive MBA, and Bachelor of Arts. He is very passionate about Presec Old Boys Association, or Odadie, and his love community service has made him a Rotarian with Rotary Club of Accra, Odadie, and Ebri Old Girls Association. He is a charter member. He is a member of the Securities and Exchange Commission Capital Markets Master Plan Working Group, and also a member of the Ghana Bar Association Welfare Committee. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Mr. Patrick Ni Amati Quaye.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Celestine. Good evening, fellows. Good evening, members of the FIoD. And good evening to the general public. This evening, we are invited to look at the GIPA law passed by Parliament awaiting presidential assent, and to get us in preparedness of what is ahead of us. We will first want to look at the historical journey of GIPA, and we start with the Investment Center under PNDC Law 116 in 1985. Then we add the Act 498, Ghana Investment Promotion Center 1994, the Ghana Investment Promotion Center 2013, Act 865. You will recognize that as if by design, you get first it was 19 years difference, then we got to another 19 years difference, and currently 13 years between the last act and the current. So we are seeing some movement, but we want to see whether all these changes basically serves any extraordinary purpose for us. So we just look at the mandate of the GIPA, and the mandate is to promote and facilitate investment in Ghana for both foreign and underlined local investors, with the core objective of creating enabling environment for competitive, sustainable investment. And this is to drive growth and jobs. In carrying out their mandate and core objectives, they have to deliver on investment promotion, business advisory, policy advocacy, and industry facilitation. In terms of foreign investment and transfers, they are to drive foreign investment facilitation through attracting and managing foreign investments, aligning projects with national priorities to support industry growth. And I want us to also underline industry growth. And also, because technology is fluid, it's important to help in facilitating technology transfer. But in all, there should be a regulatory environment within which all this investment and transfer will align to the national policy and safeguard the interest and support sustainable development. Now we look at the regulatory framework. There's the Investment Act, which defines the registration requirements and the legal protection for investors under the GIPA Act. Then mention is made of some tax incentives, the deductions, compliance obligations for businesses. The GIPA Act also makes mention of regulations that are to be made for the technology transfers and also sector-specific operations. We'll look at some registration processes and the incentives that are provided based on eligibility. Then, for every contract, you have to make provision for how disputes can be resolved. So let's move straight to understanding technology transfer. Technology transfer agreement is an agreement with a duration not less than 12 months. And so any agreement which is 12 months or more and is between a foreign entity or a foreign enterprise which is incorporated or registered in another country and involves one or more of the following are subject to technology transfer agreement. And these include A, the assignment, sale, or licensing of a foreign patent, a foreign trademark, other forms of foreign industrial property rights that are registered. Then B, the provision of foreign technological knowledge, such as software, instructions, guides, models, formulae, and feasibility studies. Then we do have the provision of foreign technical advisory services, foreign technical assistance, or any other technical service in which, in whatever form, they may be supplied. And it is important to know the text, in whatever form they may be supplied. Then the provision of foreign managerial personnel in the country for the day-to-day management or administration of the enterprise incorporated or registered in the country. The exception is that where the foreign enterprise that is providing the managerial services owns 60% or more of the equity share of the enterprise, then based on that, whatever technology transfer payment will be reduced pro rata. It's important to note that a technology transfer agreement is legally binding contract, and that the transfer of proprietary technology, know-how, often from foreign investors to domestic firms. And this serves the purpose of building local capability, accelerate innovation, and strengthen competitiveness, commonly through licensing, joint ventures, franchising, or technical assistance. There are many entities in Ghana who are either franchised or they receive technical assistance. However, much as technology transfer agreements are legally binding, The GIPA law makes a provision that non-registration of a TTA under the GIPA law renders it legally unenforceable. That is to say, in the case of a breach, the court will not entertain an action for the performance under the TTA. This presupposes that foreign entities will be pushing their local entities to ensure registration, so that in the event of a breach, they will have an opportunity to get our courts or any body, whether arbitral body or mediation body, to really look into their issue. We will now look at what is new. What was the position? And what are we supposed to expect? Somewhere in 2023, an attempt was made to change the name from Ghana Investment Promotion Center to Ghana Investment Promotion Authority. A bill was prepared. It doesn't look like it saw the light of day. And so in 2026, we're expecting that very soon we will see a new Ghana Investment Promotion Authority, which hitherto was the Ghana Investment Promotion Center. Under the GIPA law, there is no more the issue of a minimum threshold for wholly owned, foreign-owned companies or jointly owned enterprises. Hitherto, under the old regime, a foreign-owned enterprise, wholly owned, must ensure that there's capital injection, either through goods or cash, of 500,000 USD. And where it's a joint foreign entity stroke citizen, then $200,000 apply. Currently, it is proposed that for governance, there should be 13-member board. Hitherto, there was a 10-member board and a quorum of 5 can get the business done. It is important when we're looking at this governance structure to realize that there's been the introduction to the board of the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, or a commissioner, or his representative of any of the commissioners could. Then there's also the introduction of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. One may ask, why the Foreign Affairs? It is important to note that we have moved from just the ordinary state-to-state diplomacy to economic diplomacy. And so our embassies, the foreign ministry, among others, are also to champion trade. There is also the chief executive of the Ghana Export-Import Bank, Exim Bank. This is to ensure that all these people understand the spirit and the drive of the Ghana Investment Promotion Authority, so that in their day-to-day dealings with the investing public, they are minded to be more of investor-friendly entities. And we are hopeful that with the introduction of this new act, if there's a proper mindset change, we will not be having theft wars, but we will be having cooperation, collaboration among all these persons. And so we need to ensure, as a people, that an increase from a 10-member board to a 13-member board reflects efficiency. Another novel issue is the investor grievance mechanism. Under the old law, there was no such provision. Under the old law, there was no standalone obligation of the investor, and thus it bled the obligations. Under the new law, the investor obligations is a standalone provision, and it relates to sustainable development, human rights, environmental protection, gender equality, corporate social responsibility, and also local content. I must say that we always talk about local content, but really apart from the mining, oil and gas, we really do not have specific regulations that more or less pushes on this local content. So we want to believe that since the enabling enactment and the investment has made mention of it, efforts will be made to get regulations on a broader note for local content. Expatriate quota has now been increased to 12 persons from the maximum of 4. Then the law in terms of penal measures has been divided into 2, where general offenses is now 1,000 penalty units. That is, you can be fined 12,000 Ghana cedis. Initially, it was 6,000 Ghana cedi, that is 500 penalty units. There were no such administrative penalties per se. Then, one area that businesses ought to take note relates to renewal, either to, if you are registered with the GIPC, under the GIPA, your registration is no more 2 years, but annually. So if somebody or an entity has renewed its registration last year with the belief that the next period to renew the registration is 2027, please take note that it is now annual. So 2026, you'll be due for renewal of your registration. Then there was a provision under the old law which reserved some activities for Ghanaians. The list was 8. Now it has been reduced to 6, taking away betting and printing. Either to under Act 865, that is the old law, the board could make recommendations to the president for his approval for tax exemptions. Because of the coming into force of the Exemptions Act, tax exemptions can only be determined by cabinet. It is important to recognize that some of these laws need to speak. Other than that, the attempts that is being made by the Ghana Investment Promotion Agency may not see the light of day. It is important that collaboration is made tighter because there's representation of the Minister for Finance, the Minister for Trade and Agri-Industry. We have the Minister for Foreign Affairs. We have the Governor of the Bank of Ghana, all on the board. This presupposes that they will have an understanding of the mandate of the GIPA and will be supportive of its activities. Now, so the next issue is, what are the regulatory approval processes? First, you should file your full technology transfer agreement, the parties, and the financial documentation. It is important that every business will have to review contracts which run more than 12 months and ensure that they comply fully with the provisions of the Technology Transfer Regulations 1992. And we will have a discussion on that. It's important to also review the national law and residual deductions compliance. For those, when we have to talk about taxation, we'll get in. There's a need for stakeholder consultation to gather feedback and refine the terms where needed. Then there will be final approval by the GIPA when you have met all the conditions. Now, in drafting the agreement, there are some considerations that one should ensure one goes through. First, look at whether it is an intellectual property. Look at the scope. Define the ownership, the usage, right? And set the boundaries and exclusions and the permitted use. Look at the payments you are to make out. Make sure that you clarify the fees. What are the milestones? If there are royalties, what are the limits? The currency. Ensure that you address all local law duties, including the tax obligations in the contracts. What are the duration? Confidentiality clauses. You need to specify the term, the renewals, and the conditions. Ensure that you set time-bound secrecy obligations and remedies. The responsibilities of the parties to the agreement or the contract, and the dispute resolution. Ensure you define their duties, the deliverables, the enforcement steps, and ensure that you set dispute pathways to prevent litigation. So we now move to the Technology Transfer Regulations 1992, LI 1547. It is important to note that this regulation was made in pursuant of the Investment Code 1985, PNDC Law 116. The question to ask, between 1992 to date, have we not found any cause to renew these technology transfer regulations? I have been of the mistaken belief since 2013 that immediately upon the passage of Act 865, a new TTR will be brought in place. That was not done 13 years down the line. Under repeal and savings, the Technology Transfer Regulations 1992 is saved. So then I ask the question, are we really serious to match the other African countries in their drive towards investment promotion, facilitation, among others? So the sector minister is minded to ensure that the failure to issue regulations under Act 865 will not be repeated under the GIPA Act, where under the Act 865, Section 42, the minister in consultation with the board may by legislative instrument make retain regulations to prescribe for matters relating to the technology transfer, revise the list of enterprise.
Dear members, please, we seem to lose our speaker due to internet challenge. You'll reconnect shortly. We apologize for that.
Hello?
Yes, sir, please, you're welcome back. Sir, you're welcome back.
Okay. Okay, so I'll reshare.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Good. So it is important that there was a provision that the minister will make regulations to prescribe generally for the effective implementation of this act. 13 years down the line, we did not see any regulation to that effect. And under the GIPA law, the minister again is expected to make regulations to revise the list of activities reserved for Ghanaians, prescribe matters relating to technology transfer, prescribe matters relating to benefits and incentives, and provide generally for the effective implementation of this act. We don't want to wait 13 years. There will be a review and no regulations. So going back to the technology transfer regulations, it is important to note that it provides that where royalties, in the case of royalties, that is know-how, patents, and other industrial properties, the fee that a transferee, that is the recipient of the technology transfer, the know-how, should not exceed 6% of net sales. Of net sales. Two, in respect of technical service, or assistance, including know-how, the fees will be between 0 to 5% of net sales. It must not exceed 5%. Where it is know-how only, the fee should not exceed 2%. In respect of management service, the fees should be between 0 to 2% of profit before tax of the recipient. And where it is management service for projects that one cannot anticipate the profit during the early years, the fees must not exceed 2% of net sales during the first 3 to 5 years of the project. However, where there's management service and the transferor has 60% or more equity in the transferee, then the fees shall be reduced pro rata. Now, where there's provision of management and technical service and know-how, the total fees payable for all this combined is 8% of net sales of the recipient. Please note that many of your auditors for the 2026 year of assessment may look at whether or not you have made payments in respect of all the listed items. And if you have not registered, in terms of disclosures, they will state it. But then, in computing the tax, they may decide that they will disallow payments for royalties, management and technical service know-how, if same has not been registered. Now, we also have some controversy. There's a transfer pricing rules, which more or less determines whether or not some payments in respect of such fees are at arm's length. So they use the arm's length standard. And there's the comparability test. As we also advance as a nation, there's the possibility of advanced pricing arrangements and mutual agreement procedures for advanced pricing. Now, the issue is where there's a conflict between a mutual agreement procedure for advanced pricing agreement and the technology transfer of 1992. Is it a cause for worry? Shouldn't the GIPA have left the issue of whether or not a deduction for management and technical service is within limits to the GRA? And so that brings us to our next issue of non-registration of technology transfer agreements and tax deductibility. In taxation, we have the residual deduction rule, and for Ghana under Section 9 of the Income Tax Act 2015 at 896, in ascertaining the income of a person from business or investment, a business shall be made of expenses to the extent that those expenses are wholly, exclusively, and necessarily incurred in the earning or production of the income. This weighing rule has guided tax administrators for many years. And it's pertinent to note that in the BS of Ghana Limited versus the Commissioner General, Ghana Revenue Authority 2019, suit number HI 140/2019, the Court of Appeal was invited to review the decision of the High Court bordering on whether or not the respondent can deny the appellant deduction for payment of royalties on the grounds of non-registration under the TTR. The Court of Appeal held for the appellant that the expenses relating to the payment of royalties, insofar as they are wholly, necessarily and exclusively incurred in the earning of the income, must be allowed as a deduction under Act 896. We must also know that the Income Tax Act 2015, Act 896, is a principal enactment for the identification, assessment, and collection of income taxes.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Please, your slide is not moving. The case you are reading is not on the screen.
I want to believe it's frozen.
Okay. All right.
Just
Please go ahead.
Let me stop sharing and reshare. Are we okay now?
Yes, sir. We are okay, sir.
Good.
Thank you, sir.
So are we saying that we want the courts to be invited? Because I want to believe that lawyers who are in the wings to assist interested parties who will be seeking the interpretation and application of the Generalia Specialibus Non-Derogant rule in determining whether or not the IRA or the GIPA Act should apply when it comes to the determination of whether or not an expense should be allowed. Would we want the court to decide that the IRA is a special act or the special law or provision, and the GIPA is a general provision, and whether or not the general can derogate the special? This is a potential litigation which could have been prevented if the Ghana Revenue Authority was minded since 2019 to amend the residual deduction rule by requiring prior GIPA registration for the deductibility of management, royalties, and technical service fees. Another area of concern has to do with transfer of funds or the prohibition of transfer of funds for non-registration of the technology transfer. It is provided in the GIPA that only fees that are charged in the registered technology transfer agreement can be transferred. And so licensed banks are prohibited from making payments in respect of royalties, management, and technical service without proof of registration with the Ghana Investment Promotion Authority. The following are supposed to be requested by licensed banks before any transfer is made: a certificate of registration of the technology transfer agreement from the Ghana Investment Promotion Authority, copy of the technology transfer agreement certified and confirmed by the Ghana Investment Promotion Authority. Now, the next question is, as Bank of Ghana delegated its supervisory role, should it necessarily have been in an investment code? So this is also an area which many will want to ask questions. In preparing for this presentation, we're minded to talk to some captains of industry, financial consultants, entrepreneurs, among others, and having problem sharing. And what we have from them, the first person asks the 5 issues that they feel when it is resolved or incentives that are given will promote investments. The response was corruption, 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 corruption. Then the second person, institutional corruption. That no matter how good the law is, if we don't look at institutional corruption, nothing will improve. The third respondent was of the view that we should look at market loan and grant facilities to small-scale business enterprises, and the loans should be reasonably low. And for import-dependent businesses, government should make clearing of imported inputs less cumbersome. There was also talk about startup capital, land, and litigation. I cite and I side with the last part of the litigation because as much as possible, we need to encourage businesses to use alternative dispute resolution mechanism to resolve their differences. Then the fourth respondent said we need economic stability, mainly prices. Inflation and interest rate must be managed. There are excessive fees that are charged by numerous governmental authorities for registration and licensing. Then there's poor infrastructure. Let's take anyone moving out of Accra. All the major roads that lead out of Accra are terrible. Even the motorway is terrible. So poor road network affect the movement of goods and people with adverse effect on productivity. There's also the general Ghanaian attitude to business. Authorities, and particularly the GRA, must see business with long-term perspective in providing the necessary handholding for sustainability. So that taxation must not only be seen just revenue. And it is important to know that as part of the new introductions, the Commissioner General or its representative not below a commissioner is also a member of the GIPA board. It is important that in the thinking, the orientation of all these people should be moving towards creating an enabling environment. Then the labor laws must also be a general Ghanaian attitude to business. Then the labor laws must be reviewed to ensure the need of both employers and employees are catered for. Employees must be made to comply with labor contracts because most employees leave businesses without serving the required notice period. It will also be used on employers to also make sure that it becomes more difficult for employees to want to move out. There will always be natural attrition, but let's create an environment that both will win. For the fifth respondent, he said there should be faster licensing, ease of financing, improved local content. Then there should be robust governance around IMTOs, and the Bank of Ghana has come out in 2026 with some new notices in respect of transfers under the IMTOs. Then enabling startups to have tax incentives. That will also be possible where we have good database upon which one can be easily tracked. Then for the sixth respondent, he said, look, regulations around investments are not very clear, and also a bit of problem with repatriation of profits. In conclusion, the GIPA will be seen as a gateway. GIPA will enable foreign investment and accelerate technology diffusion across priority sectors. But the question is, can they do this alone? Insofar as you have turf war between Ghana Free Zones Authority and the GIPA, where you cannot even see the clear jurisdictional lines, then you have different governmental institutions also playing turf war or creating problems for investors, both domestic and foreign, to thrive, who have a problem. Then, in terms of the transfer agreements, it's important that we review the TTR. 1992 is too far. Then there are other laws which we also need to look at. We have the Manufacturing Act of 1971 and the Manufacturing Regulations of 1972. Please, are we saying that the world has come to a standstill? That there's no need for us to look at some of our standards and our laws? It behoves on the Minister for Trade and Industry to look at amending some of these laws and come out with more proactive, forward-looking, futuristic codes. Then in terms of the residual deductions, much as lawyers will litigate which law must be special, which one must be general, we want to advise businesses. Please, the GIPA may not have the full complement to look at everybody at the same time. Make sure you get in touch with relevant experts to look at your technology agreements and see whether or not they will meet the standard for the GIPA, so that you will promptly apply and get certification, so that you don't have a problem when you file your 2026 tax returns and you are told that for non-registration, an expenditure which is wholly, exclusively, and necessarily incurred in any of the income has been disallowed. We also want to say that there are incentives, there are practices, but you have to go to the Exemptions Act before you can get it. So policy clarity is a bit of a problem. And we want to believe that a lot more has to be done. Just because of time, we will not go through what we wanted to go through in terms of comparative studies with other African countries. But in a nutshell, Rwanda is doing very well. Kenya, just this 2026, has been able to get pledges of foreign investments of 2.9 billion USD. South Africa is also doing much. Nigeria has its challenges, but they have also improved. The question is Ghana looking at what all others are doing to properly position itself to be able to attract foreign investment and also promote domestic investment? We can have all the beautiful laws, but the most important is a mindset change. Let us stop putting impediments when applications are made in various governmental agencies. The delays are too many. Other countries are making sure that the ease of doing business is getting thinner and thinner. We have made some improvements, but there's a lot to be done. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time, and I'm ready for your questions.
Thank you so much, Lawyer Isaac Patrick Quaye. Please, we have the platform open for questions. So please just raise your hand or leave the question in the chat and to be read out in case your background is not conducive enough to speak. Okay, Mr. Abdullah Zachary.
Then
followed by Mr. Kuju. Please, before you come in, Mr. Quaye, would you like to take the questions twos or one at a time?
Yes, no, two. Two questioners, then I will answer.
Okay, so two at a time. Okay. All right. Mr. Abdullah, please go for it. Mr. Abdullah, please unmute and speak.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. and then thank you so much, Mr. Quaye, for the wonderful presentation. Please, my question has to do with, fine, it seems your conclusion answered part of my questions as to why is it a disincentive? It is incentive for local businesses to import rice, cooking rice, oils, and then other pastries into the country, but very, very lucrative for foreigners. But when you go around, you realize that most of the warehouses that do wholesale business in some of these things I've just made, rice, oil, it is done by the foreigners. But I learned when a local person attempts some of these things, taxes and and other regulatory issues will collapse your business capital. Then to sum it, please, as a local investor in Ghana, you mentioned franchising, licensing, joint ventureship. Which of them is ideal for a local person to participate in the foreign, in the import businesses? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So, Mr. Michael Kujo, you have the floor to ask the question before Mr. Quaye answers. Lawyer Quaye answers.
So much. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, so Lawyer Quaye, I want to find out what will you recommend to the people of Ghana, especially the government, to solve the turf war between the various governmental agencies to help sanitize the investment promotion arena? That's my one. Then my second point is not actually a question, but a recommendation. I would suggest that, if possible, you could serialize your presentation in the media. There is this Metro TV program, Eye on Port, that deals with shipping investments and all that. You could find a way to let the population know about some of these issues, and then also in the newspapers. And then finally, you spoke about 1972, 73, 1992 laws that are still in operation. Is it possible to have a private members bill written to Parliament for consideration so that these laws can be changed? Because if we are to wait or hope that one day GIPA or the government by itself will want to change these laws, then maybe our grandchildren will come and change the laws. That's my little contribution. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Lawyer Quaye, please, you have the floor before we ask
so
the citizen.
basically, Zachariah is talking about difficulty for citizens to be able to import and do other businesses. I spoke about mindset change. We are our own enemies, and until we recognize the fact that we need to speak against it, not in our small rooms, but in public spaces such as this, nobody will come to help us. Rwanda has got a vision 50-50 to be the premier investment hub. And it is under the Rwandan Development Board, which handles the investment promotion, highly successful in any international recognition for its one-stop shop mode and digitalized service. Now, what are their key successes? They are top-ranked business-friendly environments in Africa. And when we are talking about business-friendly environment, it must be both for citizens and for foreigners. Your next question, I think the two will tie in. So we go to Michael, turf war. It is still attitudinal. If we are able to embark on a reorientation of our public offices and for people to understand their core mandates, we should enable them as public servants, civil servants, to collaborate, cooperate, and not to fight each other. And this will stem from leadership. It will stem from leadership. So leadership decides everything. If you look at the success story of Rwanda, you look at the success stories of Kenya, it all had to do with cooperation by the agencies. Rwanda, for example, the economic zones and the investment promotion center, they've been brought together, and they are the Rwanda Development Board. They have to think in one direction. So the turf wars is something that it is more of we the people, and we need to be talking to ourselves. Many people who are listening today are leading businesses, And so, well, I'll also throw it back to the Institute of Directors. It is one area we need to be looking at. Let's be discussing how best we can change the mindset of our people. Thank you. Then the last had to do with old laws. Unfortunately, the Constitution provides that where any law is to be passed and it has some implication on government finances, then the bill must be presented by the president. And so what can be done is purely on advocacy. And some of the countries I've mentioned, their investment agency, promotion agencies are also into policy advocacy and reforms. So Nigeria has it, Kenya has it, South Africa has it, and Rwanda has it. So the GIPA must not just come out with these laws. They need to go back and also look at some of the sector areas they want as key and look at whether or not some of the laws on our statutes need complete new laws that will be futuristic. Other than that, we'll be passing laws to more or less take care of the problems of the past. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lawyer Quaye. Mr. Dixon Agboga, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Council, for the wonderful presentation. Please, I have two questions. The first one is the enforcement of the areas of investment reserved for Ghanaians. We know the therefore between the Ghanaians and the Nigerians and all the problems it has brought. We have not been able to enforce. Why are we still keeping it? How are we going to enforce it this time? The second one is, if there is a company or an entity with a foreign participation and they want to invest in the free zone area, do they have to first register with GIPA? Because when there is a foreign participation under the GIPA Act, you must necessarily register with the GIPA first. So how does it work in practice if I want to operate in the free zone area and I have foreign participation? Thank you.
Thank you. Can I take his questions quickly?
Yes, please.
So Dixon, I'll take the last.
I have one question again.
Yeah,
Let's take the last question from Mr. Fezi. Then that'll be the last question for today, looking at the time.
Thank you very much, Celestia. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, Lawyer Quaye, great presentation. My worry is how to improve domestic investments. What are some of the key things that we need to do to improve domestic investments? Because that's key for the development of our country, than to rely mainly on foreign investments. I know it's a very loaded one, but I'm sure you can provide some inputs.
I know. So let me take my senior question first. Senior has been one who has also been looking at improving, because I don't want to reveal who he is, but improving investments. So I'm not going to where he's been working. And so he understands the difficulty in communicating even policies to our people. But the whole issue has to do with what I said, mindset change. The mindset change should not be about one person, maybe the president. He is involved. His ministers are involved. Parliamentarians are involved. Public servants are involved. Civil servants are involved. Private sector people are involved. We are a country where we all pretend to be working and others also pretend to be paying us. The truth of the matter is that the time to start looking at what made some old businesses thrive. We've had big Ghanaian businesses. Some were not very educated, but they were able to get businesses to Ghana. I mean, Tata Brewery, among others. But it depends on whether or not we want to support each other. And at times, on a lighter note, I think our language as a people also is a disincentive to help each other. Among the Ghanaians, they have a saying, "Boya yoniye." To wit, if you want to get something, you can get it from a stranger. It's not helpful. Then you have a statement that you don't go to a chief's palace with bare hands. From that point, you are brewing corruption. So our problem is cultural. We need to look, we need a 360 mindset change. Then Dixon, GIPA and free zones. Serious step forward as to where their jurisdictions are. If you go to free zones, they'll tell you that insofar as you are registering for free zones, your registration with them is final. And you don't need to go to GIPA. So I would say, first go to free zones, ensure you are properly registered. And that becomes some protection against any problem you may have with the GIPA. The only problem will then be that if there is some technology transfer and you have to register, free zones should be able to give you a supporting letter so that you don't have to go through the registration of the enterprise and the GIPA, but still you can register your Technology Transfer Act. There will still be conflict of laws between the Free Zones Act in terms of some of the protection that is given to the investors and what this GIPA Act is also talking about. And so this behoves on the Minister for Trade to be able to resolve some of these issues. Then I think your last question had to do with areas that have been reserved for Ghanaians. As earlier said, it was about 8. It has been reduced to 6. Maybe in the next law, it will be reduced further. But even when you look at what has been reserved for Ghanaians, it is, to some extent, it shows we don't really love ourselves. I'm saying so because if barbering shop, stores in the market are the areas that have been reserved for Ghanaians, these are very low-end issues. And now when you go to our markets, you really find people of different nationalities owning large chains in the marketplace. And so the appetite, we are very good at promulgating laws, but our problem is enforcement. And so it still comes back to my favorite issue, mindset change. There was one area I wanted to talk about because of Kenya, and it had to do with citizenship by investment. There may be some diasporans who may be listening. One new addition is that in consultation with other agencies like the Ministry of Interior, the Minister of Interior is supposed to come out with a legislation to support the citizenship of people based on the investment that they will bring to the country. So this is one area that I think I needed to bring in because we are in a competing environment, and we really need to be seen to be serious as a people, especially so when many years ago, professionals from Ghana were taken outside from Ghana to some of these countries that are now our reference points. And so something went wrong. We need to understand what is wrong. And for me, if we all change our mind and we start loving our nation, we start ensuring that whatever we ought to do to make domestic and foreign investors all enjoy the toils of their labor, make it easier for them to start businesses. At the end of the day, it will be a win-win situation for everybody. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your time.
Thank you so much, Lawyer Quaye, for availing yourself. And please, just to emphasize that the recording of this session will be made available on our platforms and sent to your respective emails that you registered with. On this note, I would like to welcome our president in the person of Mrs. Mary Atari-Yeboah to give her remarks. Ma'am, please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Celestia, and thank you also, Sarah, and good evening, everybody. I start by apologizing. The time I was supposed to give the opening remarks, power surge, and then I lost internet connectivity, but I'm happy to be able to say a word or two. There is no need speaking to what Lawyer Isaac Quaye has shared with us. There's a lot of knowledge. It's just to say a huge thank you to him and to all of you who participated in this seminar. I just want to make one particular plea to each and every one of us, that these programs are for our learning, to help us improve, even what you already know, to bring us remembrance. And so it's a good thing that we invite as many people as possible to participate in the webinars, the roundtable webinars, the seminars that we hold. So please, this is my plea, to get at least somebody, hold a hand to join you as you come along for these programs, because I believe they are very useful. I want to thank each of you again, and especially to Lawyer Quaye for doing this. Thank you so much. Celestia, you can take it up.
Thank you so much, Madam President, and we appreciate you, and we appreciate all the past and current council members on the call, the fellows, the members of FIoD Ghana, the general public. Thank you so much, and thank you, Lawyer Quaye, once again. So on this note, we draw the curtain for today's session. Please watch on your platforms for the next seminar. And like our president said, please, when you get the invitation, share it among your networks, and let's get everybody to learn. And together we can have a change of our mindset and make sure that the laws that are put in place for us as Ghanaians are put into use and benefit us as Ghanaians.